We'll call the City Commission meeting to order. It's Monday, September the 23rd. The time is 5:30 p.m. If you'd please rise for the invocation and the pledge. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over this group tonight, that you give us the strength and wisdom to make good decisions for the city of Leesburg. We do this in your name. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have no proclamations and no presentations. So at this time we'll move on to item 4, which is public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and would you please give your name and your address when you come up to the mic. Any public comment?
Hello, my name is Caroline Van Dyken. I'm at 120 Palmora. First off, I'm mad at myself for not catching this, and I usually keep one foot in the door as far as looking at the agendas. But second of all these went out today. I got within 3 hours of posting on Facebook of my friends. I couldn't tell you how many people got these in the mail today. And what is disturbing about it is that, well, first off, it comes from Maryland. It says Police Department Processing Center, Maryland. So I almost threw it away. I thought it was junk. Then we open it, and then it says City of Police Department Speed Enforcement Program. If this was a real ticket, I need to mail this to P.O. Box in Atlanta, Georgia, where the City of Leesburg Police Department Speed Enforcement Program is located. Then, if I need to request that I wasn't speeding, say I have a pretty decent camera in my car that's tracking my speeding or seeing how fast I was going, it says I have to do a hearing request form and mail it to the City of Leesburg. Now, it's great that we're having this because I just looked up, I used Google, which I don't normally use, and because we all know Google likes to show you what information it wants to show you. But just within 1 minute of Googling, I found this out of Winchester, where this same company that we hired to do these speed camera lights had just been thrown out of Winchester because of obviously problems with the speeding, whether it's you're speeding or not speeding, how they processed it through the mail. And the worst part was the law firm at the time said that the company Ultima was in charge of whether or not you got to reject your ticket or get your day in court. And they were the gatekeeper in charge of whether or not you get your day in court. And then, interesting enough, when the attorneys went to get the financial records, the City of Winchester received $155,000, and the company Ultima kept $69,000. Now, you know I do my homework, so I went and pulled the new law in the state of Florida, and I know how they got it through. The company lobbied the state of Florida to pass the law, and then if you read in here, it breaks down how much money is going to which department. The state of Florida gets money every time we write a ticket. This company gets money. All these different entities get money. So now we know what the driving force was money. But I cannot believe that I would ever think that any of you would have ever gone for this and not questioned, where does it start? Where does it stop? Has anybody gone through Main Street and seen how ridiculously confusing that one is? As far as where it stops, and then my question is, I know I'm over 3 minutes, but my final question is it radar Is it from point A to point B? And if it's from point A to point B, where does point A start? Where does point B start? Because the striping says school, then before the striping, you have the sign posted legally now that says that you're videotaping us in, let's say, using the Main Street location, but then you have the sign posted of the school times, and now I found out from Alan today that it's not just 30 minutes before school time and 30 minutes after school time. Those cameras are running 30 minutes before school time through the entire day of school till 30 minutes after school time, and if you go through their speeding, you are going to get a ticket. Warnings went out today. My issue is this is a month ago. This is a month ago. So if I want my day in court and I want to protect myself and try to defend myself, a lot of those cameras dump that information before a month. If you have any cameras that run, it dumps information before then. So now I'm going to have to go out and figure out what camera can I hold a lot of information on so that I can protect myself when I go through my own city, the city that I love. Now it has cameras up everywhere. I don't speed through school zones. I've never sped through a school zone. I'm not that person. We've got problems in our neighborhood, Peterson, about speeding. And all we have to do is shame those who are speeding because I know exactly who they are. And I'm tired of this monitoring and all of this. And my question is, where was all of that information? Was that information shared with you? Point A to point B, is it radar? How is that done? That's the information I want to know. And obviously, this is just the beginning because everybody's going to get tickets now because these warnings were a month ago, and you guys have been doing tickets, what, the 16th of September? And somebody's gotten one on this board, I'm sure.
And I don't deem myself a speeder either.
Yeah, so we've got issues.
Any other public comment? All right. We'll move on to the item 5, the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner staff wishes to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item or items from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items anyone would like to pull? So I'm wanting to pull 5C, 1 and 4. Any other items? Motion to
I'll make a motion to approve all remaining items.
Yeah, second.
roll call?
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Someone please introduce 5C1.
I'll introduce 5C1 to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving an amendment to the lease agreement with Kids Central, Inc. to modify the scope of services to be provided by Kids Central, Inc. at the Leesburg Resource Center, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the amendment and providing an effective date.
Approval.
Second.
Thank you guys for introducing that. I had a little bit of concerns with this. This, on the surface, looks like we are now approving Kids Central to run a healthy kids, is that Healthy Start program.
Correct.
And my concern was, we have an agreement already, scope of services of what Kids Central is supposed to be doing in that building. And there are 8 items on that. It was in the addendum in the, in the packet. And what's going to happen to those things? What,
Right, so some of the programs that Kids Central did or does less of include some of the high school diploma stuff, the GEDs, preparing resumes, those type of services. Some of those we've picked up in the housing department, so we'll continue to do that, not through Kids Central. So we feel pretty confident that the Resource Center will still have those uses. Kids Central is moving more into that family health stuff versus some of the education,
Yeah.
career-oriented things, which we're going to pick up on staff.
Well, yeah, I just don't want them to go away because some of this stuff, money management, GED preparation, job placement, all these things were geared more towards, let's say, the upper teenage, young adult getting in, and it looks like we're making a whole change to infants, nursing, babies, that's where the program's going to move to. So I just I wanted everybody to be aware that we don't have a contract for these things now because this new agenda will replace the old agenda, and therefore we have no one doing these life skills training, except us.
Yes.
And we're picking it up, and everybody's good with that. And that's my only comment on that. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have anybody have any other comments with regard to it?
I appreciate the clarification. I read it as they were expanding services. I did not realize they were replacing services.
It's read to me that they're replacing those services, that this would be the new contract.
Yes, sir. My understanding is replacement of prior services with the scope that was attached to the amendment.
So that's no GED program at the
Well,
Resource Center?
it would be-
Is that- If we could have, yeah.
This is,
Hello, my name is Kiara McKnight. I am the new Housing and Redevelopment Manager at the City of Leesburg at the Resource Center. I was formerly a Kids Central employee that did those services,
Right.
but the city picked me up. So those services will still be ran through me with the city. The GED program is still going on with Lake Tech. We are partnered with them. They are there Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that is still going on. I still help the residents if they come in for any employment assistance or any resume assistance, and whatever I cannot do, we are partnered with Career Source, so we redirect them there. So any services that was given by Kids Central, because I am a former employee, I have experience in it, I do assist the residents in that or redirect them to where they can get the needed services.
So you feel like we are still going to be able to provide
We are still
both
providing.
these with? and I'm
Kids
good with
Central
that.
has been
I just didn't
going-
want these to go away because I
Yeah,
think
no
they're
problem.
important things we.
They've been gone since June, and since I've been employed with the city, I've been picking up those tasks. Okay.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Commissioner Eastman? Yes. Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Brady?
Yes. Would somebody please introduce 5C4?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving the sale of city-owned property located at 305 South 6th Street and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Okay.
Yes, and I pulled this also more or less to get Al to kind of give us an overview of actually, this isn't a real big sale. I think it's $50,000. It's relatively small, but it ties into something a little bigger, and I wanted.
so the concept that we've talked about a little bit has been bringing in more mixed-use uses to the downtown. I would say, too, I would mark it back, it goes far as back as the Downtown Master Plan report that we did, I believe in 2018-ish. So the concept bringing the more people we can bring downtown, then the benefits are the commerce and the folks living downtown helps healthy downtown. We have entertained the concept of a high-density use over at the old Lee School site. We're still in the process of doing that. And then we were approached by Frostenberg, represented by Brett Jones, who's here. And I'll turn it over to Brett here in a second. He has a presentation for you. But essentially, the concept is to bring in more mixed-use, higher-density type of things. And you'll note in the contract, there's some planning and zoning contingencies because of the need to get to that highest density type zoning requirements that would necessitate that. So this kind of strategically placed on the agenda for two reasons. One, because we got the offer from Frostenberg. And then the second, as we endeavor to work with the Lee School, we do see that we're going to need to expand the central business district. So we wanted to see where you all wanted to go with this concept, because if we expand the central business district to the north, then we would also expand it to the south. So more on that to come, but let me introduce Brett Jones, who represents Frostenberg. The style, and I'll leave it to him, but essentially they're looking to incorporate a number of lots. This facility for us, I would say, is now open. I would say it's not a need in our inventory. Depending on where you all want to go. We're in the process of planning some musical chairs, if you will. So this property is specifically about a third of an acre, 0.3 acres, just to the west side of 6th Street, just south of the trail. And the trail is the southern edge of the CBD Central Business District. This is currently in use with the gas department. In fiscal year 25, we contemplate moving the gas department to Griffin Road for larger facilities. And then on the east side of 6th, in the current facility, we've talked about moving the events division into that facility. So this is, like I said, about a third of an acre site, which right now it houses a shed, which houses equipment and welders and those type of things. So once the gas department has been relocated, I think that the use of this is open. So with that, let me introduce Brett to y'all, and,
Sure.
and Brett's going to give you some renderings and some pictures and some concepts of what would go along with this, should you approve the sale.
Brett Jones, 700 Almond Street. Thanks, Al. I didn't bring all those fancy pictures because I thought I'd save that for like a planning hearing or a site planning or something like that. But I can talk through it, and you have to use your imagination. So on this project, it's to acquire this piece of property to aggregate it with the parcels around there. And there's vacant fields on both 6th and a vacant field on 7th. And the purpose of this is to have a trail-oriented development. You have this amazing asset run through downtown. You have several trails, by the way. In other cities would metaphorically kill for that. And you have these utility type uses on it. So what we realized when I was looking at that property is if we could aggregate that block along the trail and actually orient the units to the trail. So there's no cars parked on the trail. The front doors orient the trail. And the purpose of this is to enhance walkability and livability and really attract a different demographic to our downtown urban areas. And it's funny to call them urban living in Lake County, but these towns, these Main Street USAs that we have, which in my opinion, Leesburg, well, you could fight with USIS over this, but probably is the best Main Street in Lake County. And I live in Claremont, grew up there. And Claremont's trying really hard, but it's not organic. I'll say it that way, but that's another story. You have that trail that is just 2 blocks parallel to your Main Street. So if you can build residential units there that front on that trail, you're gonna get people that come to work for me right out of law school. So like your 25-year-olds that are brand new baby lawyers, your nurses that are working down the street at the hospital, a different type of I would just say demographic to fill this missing middle housing piece, and that's what it would be. It'd be some form of attached housing, and I'd work with your planning staff to make sure it matched the character and nature of the city. But those people, except for you, are probably your kids' age, right? And they want to have this ability to walk, to go downtown to get a hamburger, or a Coke, or a beer if they drink beer, or do this Main Street USA experience, and not necessarily live in a big city. So that is the goal of the project, and aggregating this piece in actually is what makes it possible. Versus if you're familiar with the piece right now, there's like a 5 or 6 car garage that's used, as Al said, for utility purposes. So we hired Jeffrey Mowen. Jeffrey Mowen is a world famous architect and urban designer. He is the town architect for Celebration. He also designed Baldwin Park. He also designed for Tavistock the neighborhood called Albany in the Bahamas. And he's a friend of mine, so I asked him to do it. So he helped design this project, which is why Al thought I was going to show you a lot of pretty pictures, because we've done that. I just didn't think that a contract scenario, and that's my error, Al. You probably told me to do it. But that's it. That's the pitch. There's no magic to it. It's just a good faith effort to come and bring a type of residential use, structure, and really built style that is missing in Leesburg right now, but historically our forefathers and foremothers probably would have done something like this if they were in our shoes today.
questions?
I have a couple, but not for him.
Okay.
Al, did we get an appraisal on this?
We did not.
Why not?
I don't have a good reason for you, Commissioner. Was that required?
What was the question?
Did we, appraisal?
No, we don't have an appraisal. I think 250,000 is the
Is the-
threshold
Yeah, so
requirement.
well, it wasn't a requirement. We didn't, trying to process it simultaneously. But I will tell you, I don't think 50,000 is market value. I think the value comes into investing back into downtown, so that's an option for you all. So if you want to read up Frostenberg and try to get some more money out of them this evening, I certainly recommend that. But those are the reasons.
So we just kind of used the swag method on this one?
The swag method is correct.
Okay.
What's the swag method? Would you mind educating me? I like old sayings and acronyms. Stuff we all get? Is that what it is? That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
So I did, to answer your question, if I did an appraisal, like an old-fashioned real estate guy appraisal. So if you look to the parcel immediately to the south, which is, because of proximity, the best comp, and it's like a 2.5-year-old appraisal. Strike that, not appraisal valuation, which is public record. It came to, don't hold me to it, like $133,000 per acre when you do that per acreage. So I multiplied it by the 0.3 something acres that this is, and it came to $53,437.67. And we're gonna have to wreck the building, so there's a cost of that. It's probably gonna be about $30,000, as long as I don't have to jump through too many hoops with the city. And I don't know about any remediation. I presume there will be some remediation. I'm crossing my fingers that there's not. So when I went there, the funding source for Frostenberg said, well, now it's only worth this. I'm like, yeah, but you got to make it a good enough number for the city to even have interest with it. So Al doesn't throw me out of his office when I ask him for it.
Okay. Dan, I have a couple questions for you if you got one.
It's getting up there, just to clarify, the appraisal requirement is for purchase of property, not for sale of property as
Okay.
well, so.
Okay. I think it'd be handy to know what something's worth before we sell it.
Sure, yes, sir.
Dan, because over the years, it's been extremely important by some of the commissioners to address downtown parking. This is not that far off of Main Street. Dan, how many parking spots would you plus or minus think you could get on this lot?
I'm going to guess, Commissioner, somewhere between 35 and 50, depending on design.
Okay. And how far off of Main Street would you say this is?
700, a little over 700 feet.
Okay. So
Give or
we're
take.
talking about 700 feet off of Main Street for 35 to 50 parking spaces. And I know it's been brought up by commission coming up to spend a fortune of money, 1.6 million, on a study and addressing downtown parking. Well, for $50,000, if parking downtown is a major issue for this commission, I think this is something we really need to consider, to add 35 to 50 parking spaces versus selling a piece of property for $50,000 versus the 1.6 million we're talking about spending coming up to address downtown parking.
I'd be happy to talk about that as an academic. I'm not on the council. If you'll hear me, if you want to hear it. So the purpose of having a great downtown is walkability, and you already have the bones for it. This is, like I said, probably the best place in the county for that. And what this ventures to do is create people that will live down here so they can walk to your downtown and utilize all the commerce that you have on Main Street and, you know, one block off kind of either side, and then all the sub blocks. So that critical mass right there, you actually don't have people needing to drive here to actually get to Main Street and use the facility. So that's part one. The other part is there'll be on-street parking created from this as well, which will exceed the amounts that are required in the unit calcs for under your code. So the on-street parking will have an ancillary benefit to non-residents that live there that want to come utilize the downtown, like me. I don't live around here. I live in Claremont.
On-street parking on 6th?
Yeah.
Okay, how many spots are you talking about?
You'd have to do the calcs, but so if you think about it, when you sell a piece of property in the private sector, they can go ahead and make parking. So the road is whatever the requirement that your city requires the road. I can then take my property line, that's right here, and create some diagonal or some 90-degree or some parallel parking inside as long as I still meet the sidewalk requirements. So that's a very common thing to do in walkable neighborhood type development. If we're thinking suburban style, so sprawl style, which is what we all grew up in, which is possibly what you're thinking, yeah, it's not possible. So what I'm proposing here is a different style, a very old-fashioned style, a pre-World War II style of development, where we actually build these urban centers in a grid pattern and don't build huge parking lots and figure out how to actually make the parking work on the actual property that they serve.
No. So I really can't, I have a hard time visualizing how you're gonna get on-street parking on 6th Street, but is back to my point is, I mean, I understand residential development downtown, but you have the old Lee adult site that's already been approved. That's gonna be a tremendous amount of downtown residential already. Like I said, and I know there's.
No, I'm just going to say it's not been approved yet.
Yeah, Lee has not been approved yet.
Well, it has in a sense.
I'm
to tear
optimistic.
the
I'm
building
optimistic we
down.
will approve it. No,
It's approved as a PUD, right?
Yeah.
no, we've not agreed on density.
It's approved as a PU,
Exactly.
just for clarity purpose, it's been approved as a PUD, which is townhomes,
Okay.
at 63 units.
Okay, correct, okay.
The
We don't
concept
have an
that's
agreement
been
with
on
the
the
developer,
table,
I'm
the
sorry.
concept that's currently on the table is to convert it into apartment complexes, which would need significantly more planning and zoning review. So it's on the table as that PUD. All indication is that the developer wants to go a different direction.
Okay, but
So
the
that different direction is not approved.
Yeah, I was trying to help
PUD
too,
is
by the way.
the PUD is approved for residential. So, but I know it's, for years, it's been addressed for the downtown parking issues, concerns, whatever, with some of the commissioners. I think this is a great opportunity to add 35 to 50 parking spaces downtown, a block away off of Main Street. And I just think for the $50,000, you're gonna give this property away without even knowing if that's even a good fair market value. I just don't think it's a good deal.
So obviously, I support the Lee adult site and the site for apartments. I'll start with you touched on the other parking. That's been talked about for 20, 25 years. I'm excited this commission finally approved the money. And that will include knocking down the old Center for the Arts Partnership building, re-engineering the whole thing there. Yes, it's a lot of money, but when you look big picture, it's good forward thinking for our downtown, because we do have parking downtown. It's just not all in the best location. This is a premium location. When I looked at this site here, I did call Al today. I'm a commercial realtor, so I looked at the values. It's the bottom of the range, in my opinion, but it's in the range. I'm okay with that. I did talk to Al about, do we keep it for parking or any other needs? And we talked about that at length. Al said we don't have any other needs for it, but I did scratch my head on using it for a parking lot. But I also believe we need this kind of housing downtown. It all goes together. So I think with the other large parking lot, which will be hundreds of spaces, and then bringing this in is a good deal. So, but I understand and respect your comments.
Like I said, I just don't know we need to spend $1 million something to address downtown parking coming up when you got a piece of property sitting there that could easily house 35 to 50.
And that's what we have right now. We have a lot of scattered parking, and this would be a good example. We have lots like this that are off the beaten path. I lived in a bigger city, so I've walked 6 blocks to work. This is probably a block and a half, but right or wrong, people in Leesburg that come downtown want to park closer. We're trying to make it more convenient for them. I think this is a better use, and I struggle with it today, but I think putting residential here is a good use. I do understand your comments on parking, but I'm optimistic that the big parking project will fix that problem, and now we need to focus on residential. But we've had many a consultant come here and say, you have parking, but it's scattered all over downtown. In different places. Of course, that includes the multi-level parking garage, which is a little off, a little further east. Of course, it's coming into its own now as well. But I will support it. But I did go through that exercise today. Evaluating should we hold it for parking, et cetera. But I want this residential housing downtown. I think it all goes together.
Well, I'm just thinking that versus spending that kind of money And I don't know you'd even get 35 or 50 parking spaces out of the 1.6 million. Here you can get the parking spaces and say the city can save a tremendous amount of money.
And the difference in opinion there is we're trying to make it more convenient. The parking we're talking about now will be right up against Magnolia, right in the thick of everything. And this lot is a little bit set back. It's a great lot for residential, and the fact that it's on the trail is big.
I do support this. I think having residential on our trails is huge. I'm a huge trails supporter. And I think you have half of downtown businesses here in the audience tonight, and I think they will all argue that we do have a parking problem, and the plan that we are presenting is something that they all are in favor of. So I would do support this as well.
So does this property that we're talking about, is it butt up to other properties that would include more residential development?
Yes, if you think about this property being on 6th, if you're on the trail and you walk all the way to 9th, it would be that entire contiguous block, and then all the way south until you start hitting houses on one. There's a house on one side and there's the apartment a little bit further, so it would be all of that. So it completes the critical mass calculation.
Yeah. And, you know, the reality of the parking issue, if you get your little Google phone and you look at where our parking garage is compared to downtown, and then you look at this compared to downtown, this is further away.
Well, it is, but I mean, where else you
Parking
gonna,
spots.
but where else you gonna put parking downtown? To start tearing buildings down.
I didn't say I wouldn't do that, so, you know.
I mean, you're gonna have to have parking
There's
off of
discussion
Main.
about parking, yes.
And I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to save the city $1.6 million I'm spending to study, to maybe add an additional 12 parking spaces downtown when
Well,
you've got a piece of property.
That's not an accurate statement to say 12 parking spaces. That's
Okay, well, how many, Mike? I mean, I've asked this question for 6 months on how many parking spaces we're gonna get out of
Well, I'm
this
not
1.6
qualified.
million,
I can
and I
guarantee-
can't get an answer from nobody.
well, I can guarantee it's more than 12.
Well, how can you guarantee? Have you seen anything?
Well,
Because I've seen nothing.
we're talking about knocking down a building. I believe we're talking about collapsing 5th Street because we don't need it now.
Look,
And we're picking up some of the land from the gas plant, re-engineering it all. I mean, I would like to think we're going to pick up 100 more, but I'm not a site engineer.
Well, this piece of property is right, not too far from this. You're talking about adding spaces there, well, this space is not that far away.
This site will not solve our parking problem, and it's too far out.
Look, I think the commission, and I don't want to support or not support one concept over another, but I think what's important to point out is that these are corresponding and different concepts. One concept is we have to address parking. That concept concerns taking away parking. Let me say that again, because there's the business owners in the audience, okay? Taking away non-conforming parking on Main Street, so there's a deficit. And then going back to the multiple sites of I'm going to give you the alt key numbers, and you can look them up. 1344, 379, 1344, 361, 13465, 25, and 1759, 84, and working potentially with Livestream. So in those blocks of areas, basically what I've described is everything from the trail to the north to Magnolia, and then over towards Third, working around so that whole area is the area where we're trying to pick up parking as well as take away non-conforming parking on the Main Street. And Commissioner Cannell, you have asked multiple times, what's the number we're going to pick up? And the answer has been, we don't know. We don't know because we haven't put a significant amount of money at it. The only amount of money that we have spent down this road is $7,500 to do the initial study, which says we needed to focus on that 500-foot radius, get as much parking as close as possible. What I think now becomes different about do you want to use different doesn't mean better, different means different. About this parcel is that its location, while it's in that ring, it does go on the other side, and we spoke about this on the phone. So I'll share our conversation. Okay? So the difference is that this parcel is across the trail and is surrounded by Frostenberg property. Then the parcel where we were going to contemplate demolition, which is the gas building, that will not be demolished. That would be the concept of where the events division goes. So stringing the extra number of parking, and I don't dispute the number, somewhere between 30 and 50 parking spots, depending on how it's designed, you know, yeah, you'll pick stuff up, but it's going to be outside of that area that we're trying to include in the partnership building, for lack of better explanation. So you have you want your cake and you want to eat it too in this regard, right? We want to get as much business and commerce as we can, and we want to make it parking friendly as we can. I do not think that if you sell this parcel that you're going to hurt your parking objective. I think you enhance the multi-use of downtown. If you opt not to, then it does become an opportunity for additional parking. But I don't think parking goes into the equation. I think what goes into the equation is, I would capitulate, I think the sale number is a little below value. But then, again, we've had this conversation 100 times in the last year, is as a public entity, we don't always make decisions that's based on money. I know that sounds horrible, but it's the truth. Not all the time are we looking to make a buck. We're looking to provide a service. We're looking to provide concepts which improves community. And if that means you're slightly not the best sale, but you're promoting your concept, which is to bring people downtown, mix it with some of the other projects we have, then we're doing our mission. I would say that this is a reasonable offer for a concept that will yield us back in performance and bringing people to downtown, to getting into our mixed-use concepts that we've been, honestly, I would say, struggling to do for the last 5 years. So this is an opportunity to start cracking that nut.
Any other comments from the commission? So we have a motion. Yeah, we'll take some public comment on this, actually. Is anybody here would like to offer public comment on it?
I'm here, I'll comment. Again, longtime resident of Leesburg, and yes, we've been talking about, like you said, Mike, we've been talking about parking forever. But how many of you go to Mount Dora? I mean, I've had to park 5 blocks away, but that didn't stop me from going to a store, a restaurant, or anything, because there's stuff down there I want. And I hate if that offends anybody that has to shop downtown. I like coming downtown to eat. But is Mount Dora addressing their parking issue? Because it doesn't seem like it to me. The last weekend I went, I couldn't find a space for almost 30 minutes. It did not stop me from finding a space and going to where I wanted to go. I mean, that's the harsh truth of it. So we're dancing around and spending money on parking spaces, and I'm concerned that's not what's going to bring people downtown.
Any other public comment?
James Hopgood, 501 South 5th Street. As a business owner downtown, there's consumer reports. What Al mentioned was the conversion rate from somebody that comes into an area for the first time, which is what we have, right? We have a perception of Leesburg as kind of being an old town that for a long time, I've grown up here, didn't have the best things downtown. That's changing. If you spend some time downtown, you'll realize, like you said, you like to come down and eat. I think the restaurant sector is doing a great job of creating new and exciting things to get people down there. So we've got to convert those first-time people into a convenient way that they want to come back. I'm talking about the villages. The villagers. We see, I would probably say 15 or 20% of our consumers are villagers that complain about the parking. Because in the villages, they make it a precedent to make sure that they can do that. And to speak to Mount Dora's issue is that majority of their downtown is either parks or is already developed. They don't have empty gas departments in their downtown area, to my knowledge. So I think this is a great sale to bring some residential there. I fully support the commission's choice to do the other parking with the partnership, with partnership building is. And I think it solves a lot of issues for us businesses that are downtown.
Any other public comment?
Elliot, Blue Line Sportswear, 7112 West Main Street. Thank you. Parking is a #1 issue to get people down here. You guys are doing a fantastic job. That parking lot is not going to affect it. We can't even get them to walk 1 block right now. So constant signage, uniform signage rather, as the company told us last year, that needs to be done. That was their recommendation, uniform signage, till we get to the thing. I have full confidence that we'll get there. We all want the same thing, but parking is a major issue. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. This time we'll move on to public hearings, item 6. Before we introduce 6A, I'm going to let Al talk a little bit about the millage, the budget adoption. You didn't know I was going to do that.
No, I did. And look, I'll talk as much or as little. There's a presentation again, if you'd like. I'll give it just a super recap. The high items in the general fund, I think, is the addition to a significant increase in public safety by increasing the police department by 12 positions, adding additional fighter personnel so that they can change hours. And that takes a significant stress load off of them so they can respond better and more to calls. Not that they aren't currently. It's just a higher level of service. I think also in the general fund, the reduction of the transfer, which represents 6% of current electric customers in city limits, is a significant change, and also starts putting us in a position to where extremely concerned the state legislature may lead us, even though it is an unwanting leadership. And the utility funds, we endeavor to do continue to provide the same quality service. There is a CPI increase on the utilities except for electric. We will move into fiscal year 25 with the same electric base rate, also with the noted power costment changes that we've discussed, and the Electric Advisory Board discussed ad nauseum last Monday. With that said, we did note the inflation, the growth factors on the electric fund. It's inflation, as well as some of the expansions we've done to accommodate development, have put a bit of a stress on the electric fund. So we will be watching that closely as one that we may need to adjust a base rate mid-course of the year, and we'll report accordingly on that. As well, another rate that we will keep an eye on is the building department rate. We have done, I think, a super great job to reduce our building fees to where they're the lowest in the region. We did that as an attempt to bring back some of our surplus and fund back lowering of the surplus through the rates. So that one is, I think, really a time matter of when we may need to get back up to a fuller building rate, but that's going to be based on the number of permits and the activity in the department. I think we can stave that off. So at this time, we're kind of balancing personnel openings, which we're trying to delay hiring to see where we are and measuring level of service versus the need for a rate increase, but we'll keep a beat on that. And then in the capital project funds, we've also, I think, put together a big slate of things to do that include the parking conversation, completing Susan Street, finishing up the sewer plant, and managing growth. So in a quick microscope, that would be the fiscal year 25 budget. It does maintain the millage rate, and it also maintains the fire assessment fee at $165 per residential unit.
Thank you, sir. Do we need a motion to introduce 6A?
No, sir, you just turn it over.
Turn it over to Brandy, that's what I thought.
You ready? Name of taxing authority, the city of Leesburg, Florida. The current year rollback rate of 3.2327. The proposed millage rate of 3.4752 is 7.50% higher than the current year rollback rate. The millage rate to be levied, 3.4752 mills per 1,000. On July 8th, the Commission approved the tentative millage rate of 3.4752 mills per 1,000. This is the same rate as the prior fiscal year. Whereas the proposed budget was developed using 3.4752 mills per 1,000, and the tentative millage rate was approved at the September 12th meeting. Therefore, the tentative millage rate of 3.4752 mills per 1,000 represents a 7.50% increase from the current year rollback rate, which is attributable to additional expenses and is a tax increase under trim guidelines.
Do we have any public comment?
James Hopgood. I sat through, I think, everyone but the first one, and it was highly educational. I would just publicly want to say thank you for the professionalism, the commission and Al and his staff that put together all the reports, all the stuff. It was eye-opening to me to hear all the numbers and all those things. So I would recommend that more citizens. I don't know if there was any other citizens in the room. There was not very many people in those meetings. But I would just encourage us as citizens and business owners to come and be a part of that planning in those meetings, and have our opinions heard and said, and just be educated on what, because a lot of these things that they're talking about tonight, I know a lot more about them because of those meetings that I went to, and I can assure you guys these guys are doing a great job, and are very professional and very thorough in their presentation. So thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you. Randy, would you like? What's that?
You're on the resolution to
Yeah.
adopt the millage.
Yeah, so we're on item 4, the resolution.
Motion.
Do we need that introduced?
I'll introduce 6A4 to be read by title only.
There you go.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, finally adopting 3.4752 mills as the fiscal year 2024-25 millage rate for the City of Leesburg, Florida, representing the current year proposed aggregate millage rate of 3.4752, which is 7.50% more than the current year rolled back rate, and providing an effective date.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? So, do we need a vote now? Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. Roll call?
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Brady?
Yes. I just saw. So now we have an opportunity for public to comment on what we just did. If there's anyone from the public who would like to do that. And there's not. So the resolution, do we need to read it?
And it introduces. I'll introduce.
We'll move into the budget next.
We need to introduce it?
I'll introduce 6A6 to be read by title only.
There you go.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, adopting the fiscal year 2024-25 budget for the City of Leesburg, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Roll call.
I have a couple of things. It was on notice the 11th hour, but it caught my attention at the last meeting, and city manager said to bring it up at this meeting. So we're sitting on $491,000 in the CRA fund, and the resource center owes the electric fund $750,000 on a note. And we know the electric fund could use that money. Do we want to see about transferring that $491,000 towards the note to help pay it off and help our electric fund have a little extra wiggle room?
Maybe half of it. I wouldn't want to move it all. I mean,
We talked about, I thought we were rainy day in the 400 for
I thought you told me we weren't allocating it.
Rainy day in it.
Okay, rainy day.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I respect what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, actually, so Commissioner Reisman brought this up to me, actually, first reading, and my response was if I had thought about it, when we had the discussions ad nauseum with the Carver Heights CRA board, I would have brought it up as an option. You guys went through several discussions on that, and at the end of the day, we increased the funding for the home program to 600 grand, and your number 490 in rainy day fund or unallocated. Those are in my mind the same thing. So I do think that is open for discussion. It might be something you want to discuss with the CRA board. I think it is important to kind of put on the table because that was an option. I don't think we talked a lot about it.
No, we didn't, but it's coming back to me now. I mean, that money it's unallocated, but I think with the Susan Street project on the table is why it's sitting there like it is.
I think, yeah, so.
And that just came back to me. I think that's I want to stay on the money.
We kind of kept it on the rainy day fund or unallocated because if we needed to go back to the well, depending on where the Susan Street project were, we would have that. So, look, I will say this. I probably think it's a reasonable consideration. I don't know if I would say it would give the electric fund wiggle room, but it's certainly cash they need. So I think it's something you probably should mark. I probably would want to include Commissioner Berry and the other commissioners.
So we're okay with holding off to the next meeting, making that decision?
I think you probably would want to, but I think it's good you brought it up.
We can amend the budget during the year if
You can amend the
needed.
budget moving forward.
Something to think about then.
I think it's a good one to put on the table, yeah.
And the second thing I wanted to bring up is I know we discussed this and we kind of just said we'll leave it what we have, but I think it's a totally different software than what we are currently using. And I get calls all the time, I'm sure you guys do, and our residents don't know where to go or how to do it. And I still would like to see if you guys would consider the see-click fix option, the option for our residents to report things that they see around our city, things like that.
That's an easy fix. It was, the presentation was about 15 grand to have it was text gov and see-click fix, a little bit different programs with application. The see-click fix, I think, was a little bit easier communication for the public to point out. Like,
Was that what Sonia came in?
That is what she talked about. I think the commission was a little bit hesitant to do that. Commissioner Reisman talked to me about it afterwards. I asked him to bring it up again too. So I do think it has some benefit. The $15,000 isn't a game changer. So it would be appropriate if you wanted to add that into an expense for next year to say so now. We can adjust the budget moving forward with that if that's where y'all want to go.
Comments?
We did debate it some. I think some neighboring cities were using it.
Eustis and Tavares both use it.
And I thought we agreed, let's kind of see what they think about it.
Well, they've been using it for a few years.
Okay.
I think what the discussion was is, let's see how Text My Gov goes.
Okay.
Those are two totally different applications. So that's why I wanted to bring up
And what is the exact difference?
See-click fix lets the residents take a picture of something they see, whether it be a pothole on their road or a tree that needs to be trimmed or a fence that needs to be fixed, something that we can fix. And it geolocates it and it sends it to our database, and then we can sort it out and send it to the appropriate department to address it.
No.
It opens the line of communications for our residents.
Okay. I'm open-minded. I just worry you might turn into a complaint line, and
I'm trying to.
my phone would quit ringing a lot
we
more.
had
Would quit ringing as much, so I guess I should be supportive.
Sonia came in and gave the presentation, and I just didn't come away from that presentation with a good idea of which way to go. It was a little, I wouldn't say confusing, but I would say confusing. I'm not sure that I am in favor or opposed because I don't have enough information.
Yeah. Again, we can amend the budget. We can deal with that, over the
We
course
can
of the
deal
next
with that.
fiscal year. It's not that much money, but I would like to know more about it as well.
Yeah.
Can we get a presentation just on see-click fix?
Okay.
So,
You good with that?
I think that was it.
All right. So, someone introduce 6A7.
We need to vote on this.
Yeah, we need to
Oh,
vote.
we need to vote. Okay. Roll call on 6A6.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cottonelle?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Now would you introduce 6A7?
Yep. The adopted millage rate represents the current year proposed aggregate millage rate of 3.4752 mils per 1,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Okay. Move on to item 6B, which is second reading of ordinances. Would someone please introduce 6B1?
I'll introduce 6B1 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, vacating and abandoning a portion of the improved right-of-way of 13th Street located between Center Street and West Main Street in Leesburg, Lake County, Florida, providing for conditions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
For approval.
Second.
Discussion. We've already got, do we need Dan to get up and I mean, this is not a.
Yeah, no, so this is the ordinance that contemplates the closure of 13th Street from Main to Center. So to recap, the concept was to close that street because as the First Baptist Church endeavors to buy the melon patch, they will have owned all but about a 30-foot strip on 13th Street. I'll explain that in a moment. So with the FBC, just so I can be brief, with the FBC now owning about 99.9% of both sides of 13th Street, they approached us with the concept of owning that right of way, keeping our utilities intact, but to close it to have so that they have more of a campus atmosphere for the parishioners in church and for the school students as they go to school there. Really as a safety concern, as an aesthetic concern, and being that the FBC is a pretty big part of that region of downtown, the concept makes some sense. We had Mr. Polk, Andy, and I'll ask you in a second. He made some comments in opposition to the closure. The biggest comment that caused the staff review of the project was he had thought that 13th Street was closed. We did a double check and a triple check on that, and it is indeed not closed. So what we presented to you was proper and accurate. Since the meeting, there was a lot of discussion at first reading, and I have had opportunity to talk to Mr. Ayers from FBC, and there seems to be some accord to, instead of closing the street from Main to Center, we agree at this time to close it from Main to Line. I think, Mayor, you spoke about that in part of your comments. My correspondence with the First Baptist Church as well is open to that. And Andy, if you would read Mr. Polk's letter as he requested.
Dear Commissioners, on September 9, 2024, the first reading of vacating and abandoning a portion of the improved right-of-way of 13th Street located between Center Street and West Main Street in Leesburg, Lake County, Florida, was officially recorded. I previously stated in that meeting of being against the closure of 13th Street from Center Street to Main Street. My two reasons behind this opposition. One, at present, the First Baptist Church does not own both sides of the road on 13th Street. Two, closing the road from Center Street to Line Street will not alleviate the traffic problems already in existence with First Academy. For the record, I'm not against the closing of 13th Street from Line Street to Main Street. Since I'll not be in attendance this evening, I'd appreciate a public reading of my written communication in lieu of my absence. William L. Polk.
Thank you, Andy.
So with that, I think we've teed up the item for you. Before you is whatever public comment you want.
Yeah.
Mr. Ayers is here if you would like to hear from him, whatever public, and then that would be the summation of our report.
I think we can do that. I certainly want to have public comment on this. So my position on it would be, I would welcome the closing of 13th from Line to Main, but I am opposed to closing from Center to Main, and my concern is that we would be doing that based on the First Baptist Church's ownership of both sides of the road. But when you start looking on the north side of Center Street, you have a private owner who owns both sides of the road. So are we going to then afford him the same Same thing, and if we do that, then what happens to the light at Center Street and 27? It's a road to nowhere.
Right, so the only thing I would just offer now before you take public hearing, or public hearing or public comment is, you may want, there is a motion on the floor to approve the ordinance as is. So someone may want to make a motion to amend the closure.
So
Okay.
all parties are okay with line to.
Well, let's have public comment.
Okay, just don't forget to amend.
But we're going
Just
to
don't
amend
forget to
if we
amend.
want it changed. Do you have any comment?
No, I'm just going to add, I fully support line to
You're in
main.
the same.
I struggled with the residential houses east of 13th, and I think we agreed to do signs, more posting in the neighborhood. I would like to know if some of those people are here. Okay, so I'll wait, but I do want to go on the record there.
So at this point, we would like to hear public comment. Art, maybe if you'd like to come up first. And
Sure. Yeah, Al and I talked and understood what everybody had to say, and we understand that. We think that's a reasonable thing, going from Line Street to Main Street. My only caveat is that one of the things that's brought up, Mr. Polk brought up last time, is that we said that we're going to do all this stuff downtown. I just want to give a little bit of color to that. We're not neglecting the downtown, but we had a couple of opportunities came up that we had to do. Number one, we were doing an $8 million development in the villages that we had to continue doing. And then we had the opportunity to buy the 40 acres by Windsalt. And so both of those kind of made us pull back on downtown. We're still planning on doing everything. We're still good because originally when the thing came up about Melon Patch, and we said, well, that's going to create more problem. We got more kids coming through there. We'll still go forward with the acquisition of Melon Patch. Don't have a problem with that. My only caveat is we're fine with Line Street to Main Street, but at some future date, Mr. Polk is right. We made plans and we did not do the downtown that we said we were going to do. He's correct about that. However, if we get to a point in the future where we own additional property there, or we have a lot of kids going back and forth. Right now, the concentration of kids is that area, Line Street to Main Street. There's hundreds of kids going back and forth. That solves a major problem. I'm just saying at some point in the future that if we really do more development, then we would come back to a future city commission and say, hey, we need to look at that. I shared with Al when we did the kind of went around and looked at all the traffic. And there is a business that would be impacted, is Mr. Polk's business, but he would still have full access right off of Center Street. And there's always Perkins there. There's no residential impacted by that. It's just the business there. But I don't want to do anything to obviously harm Mr. Polk's business. But I would just say right now, this is a good solution for right now. But if we continue to grow as a church, and if we continue to acquire property, and if we build buildings or fields on there, we may have to revisit in the future. It's my only caveat that I have.
any questions for? Okay. Is there any other public comment regarding this? Please come up.
My name is Linda Workman. My husband and I bought our house on Herndon Street in 1996. We've seen a lot, good and bad. We're dealing with a lot right now just on our block of Herndon Street that we are not getting any results. And of course we have the Lee Adult, which that's a whole nother story. We, as a neighborhood, a lot of the people have moved. We've had some that have passed away. Did not agree with when First Baptist wanted to close High Street. We didn't. They built the wall. During that time, we did hear that Line Street was going to be somewhere, and it's funny that you said that, Mr. Ayers, that about bringing it up later if you only do the Line now, then come back to do Center. So High Street was closed quite a few years ago, and the wall. And we had heard then that Line Street was in the planning. I think it's ridiculous. I absolutely think it's ridiculous. So I go that way to work for 15 years. So I have to go a different way because you're blocking. I consider, call me out on it, that's a business. I live in my neighborhood. We've got elderly people. We've got people that go, so I have to change my routine. If the school was going to be that big, maybe it should have been considered you can't be that big, or maybe you do need to move it somewhere else. That is a small area. I mean, where's it gonna end? And I'm really upset that some of my neighbors are not here. Again, I've got 2 that are sick, and I got 1 out of town. And Kelly, bless her heart, who was moving, and she sent a letter And if y'all got it from our street, look, I don't even know how to pronounce her last name. She sent one. She's come to all the meetings. She's been very vocal about Lee. But, yeah, they sold their house. They're getting out of the neighborhood. Again, where does this end?
Are you objecting to the line to Main, or are you just expressing concern over north of line?
In general, closing all of it, I am.
Okay. No, I just wasn't clear.
Because like closing line, like I said, I live on Herndon, so I would be going when I'm sorry, I'm a Publix girl. I just moved my 87-year-old dad with me. I'm at Publix every other freaking day. I'm over it. I go Herndon, I make a right on 12th, I make a left on Line. So now I gotta change my route. I go to work. I work in Fruitland Park.
I don't think this changes your route. That's why I'm confused. That's what I'm
This is
How do
gonna
I
be
get out of line?
The closure will be at the south end of Line Street. You will still be able to drive on Line.
And take a right.
Proceed north.
Yes.
On 13th to Center Street.
Where are they closing it then?
From that intersection of Line and 13th to Main Street.
To the south.
Just that portion.
So you cannot drive in front of the school, in
So you
front of
don't
the
drive in
entrance?
front of the church anymore.
They're trying to create a campus environment that's safer, but no, you're not impacted. That's why I was
That
confused.
I know,
I'll
because I
take-
drive home that day, and a lot of times it's 3 ways of congestion.
Yeah.
It's north, south on 13th
Well,
Street,
there
and
will be
it's Line.
no more traffic on 13th to Main Street.
So what would be put there? A wall? How do you close that?
We're not closing it.
Well, we
How
would
do
be
you
closing
stop
Line.
traffic from going in front of the church then?
Oh, I don't think they're trying to stop it. I'll let Art speak to that. I don't think they're trying to stop it. I think they're just trying to divert it another
I mean,
way.
what do you put to keep,
The road will be gone.
Oh,
I mean, that's what,
okay, is that, okay, I didn't know that.
but your route to Publix is not impacted. I just want,
Excuse me?
your route to Publix from your house, which was your example, is not changing or being impacted, just FYI.
I did not know that.
Okay.
All I know was when I rolled up there Thursday coming home from work, I was shocked when I saw the sign that the meeting was tonight, and it said Line Street. And then when I went home and got online, it said Center Street.
yeah, originally in
but
the
sign-
notice, it is Center Street. That was the
And we-
original intent.
And we respect your comments, and that's why we're not voting
I
on
appreciate
line
that.
to center tonight. We're putting that off for some other day.
So Line will not even be a road. I mean, I'm sorry, 13th in front of their,
I'll let Art answer that. They're creating a campus environment is what I know, which I understand.
Yeah, the effect would be to close the Publix roadway over that. What First Baptist ends up doing with that would be up to them. It would be their choice. It would essentially revert to private property at that point. So they could put up a barrier and block people from using it or do whatever they wanted to because it would become their private property essentially at that point.
I appreciate the information I do, but again, the way I feel about it, I don't. Where's it gonna end? You know, I just don't feel it is, and we've already been done wrong with Lee and everything else that's going on, and so it's a
I
done
dare
deal.
ask, but I'll do respect. What's your concern with Lee Adult?
Just what's going on with it. I'm disgusted
Oh,
that
okay,
the
okay,
building
okay.
got to that point.
Okay. No, there's been a lot of controversy on that.
Yeah.
Most people are happy we knocked it down, but okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't know yet as far as we're going to do. We're going to bring in somebody to help us advise for that. We still have to get kids in there for preschool. We still have to get kids in for adult. We may put bollards, we may put a thing, but I think we're going to, we may reduce some traffic. But part of the thing is we had to wait to see what happened with Melon Patch because we may be able to do some cutting across there too. Al, one thing though that I've noticed here, remember we also talked about High Street because Mrs. Workman brought up High Street. We've already closed that one.
let's- Yeah, and I know I'm not by a microphone, but just so everybody kind of has a visual image of
There we
what we're
go.
doing here. So this is US 27, AKA 14th Street. This is the Baptist Church property. They essentially own everything from US 27 to 13th Street, from Main to Center. They have under contract now the Melon Patch, and I think they're looking to buy the synagogue, which would be the southwest corner of Center and 13th Street.
We're not in active discussions.
Not-
I mean, we have a really good relationship with Beth Shalom. When the October 7th thing happened, I contacted her, said, hey, we're here to help you with safety and everything. But they are interested at some point, I think.
So, other than the Melon Patch for now. You scheduled to close,
Yeah.
the FPC is scheduled to close on Melon Patch in December.
Right.
So pretty much everything from the north side of Melon Patch and this parcel, vertically challenged, right? That parcel, all the way down, both sides of the street, FBC. So the initial concept was to close all of Line Street, or I'm sorry, all of 13th Street.
Right.
The discussion was that would be a problem because of the neighborhood in this area who transverses 12th and Line Street, and primarily the traffic pattern is to the north. So like the earlier speaker said, and the route is go from this neighborhood to get to Publix. You know, most folks go up, over Line, up 13th, over Center, and then onto 27 and then into Plaza. So that path doesn't change. The compromise that was discussed is the south side of Line and 13th, this closure, leaving this open to the public. In time past, the First Baptist Church talked about different ways to close that, removable bollards. Those concepts are still kind of up in the air as far as how they would physically do that. You know, I imagine that this probably still would remain a street. They probably do decorative things to it, tabletops, speed reduction stuff, because their concept would be parsonage use, or not parsonage use, but the church use and the school use. And then they would probably do some type of physical closure as far as bollards that would get added and removed based on when they wanted through traffic through that area. So that plan to be determined at a later date. So that's the concept, and what as you all have discussed tonight is there seems to be some agreement to close it south side of Line, south side to Main. High Street came up. High Street is probably something we need to go back and probably clean up because it's a mess.
Yeah.
It is not closed, but there's a section of it that's probably still used by the public. Absolutely. That's still us. So the way the looks like the maps read is this section of High Street from US 27 to the old railroad corridor. That's the city's. From railroad corridor to the railroad corridor, that's First Baptist Church. And then from the east side of the railroad corridor back to 13th Street, that becomes the city again. At this time, I would say there's really no practical use of High Street for the city. It doesn't serve really any kind of cut through. It goes through a portion of the First Baptist Church's property. So this ultimately we probably need to come back and formally close that, except for any, and protect whatever utilities we have. And frankly, I don't know if we have any in that area. So that's the High Street conversation, and we'll need to come back and clean that up. As we dug into the closure of 13th Street is when we determined the issues with Line, or High. So High is not closed to the public, 100% of it, but that center portion is. Or that center portion is still a street that's good. So it's a street that goes through private property. And that's not a good thing. So, but these things happen, so it's something we need to clean up.
Now, how does that work with emergency vehicles? Do you have bollards blocking the access to the roads?
That's going to be an issue that the First Baptist Church is going to have to work out as they design that plan.
I think it's reasonable to ask the first responders to get out and pull up bollards out of the road to drive down there.
No, I wouldn't think so either, Commissioner, but that's, again, something that's going to need to go into the plan of the First Baptist Church.
Would we have a say in that? Or will our police and fire department have a say in that?
Yeah, ultimately they would, because whatever type of road improvements that they do are going to have to come back through the city for permitting, and then that would kick it into the DRC.
Yeah, the DRC would be reviewing
The
that. for sure.
Development Review Committee. So that's a committee that's set up by the city, that when we get site plans or certain applications for development, we review it, and that would certainly be a comment of, hey, you need to make a means for emergency ingress egress.
Fire is on the DRC.
So, I mean, the
DRC
simple
as well,
answer is
so that-
yes, the city would have a say-so in how that got developed.
Any other public comment on this? Any other comments from the commissioners? We actually need to make
I was going to make a motion to amend
5B1 or
6B1.
Yes.
Basically, for the closure would be from Line Street to Main Street.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6B2?
Do we need to vote on the original?
Vote on
Oh, wait.
On the original.
Yeah.
Oh, we got it, yeah. Okay. So now we have an amended motion that's already introduced.
It's
So
already
now-
introduced and amended to close, so this vote is to close 13th Street from Main to the south side of the line right-of-way.
Correct. Roll call.
The amendment.
Amending.
To amend the motion, yeah.
Commissioner Cunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Sorry about that, guys. Okay.
I'll introduce
So let's move on to 6B2.
I'll introduce 6B2 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 5, Section 5-6, consumption of and open containers prohibited on public property, exceptions, amending Section 5-6.2, consumption of or possession of alcohol in open containers near store selling alcoholic beverages, amending Chapter 18, streets, sidewalks, and other public places, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Okay, discussion on this. Yeah,
So
just-
obviously,
yeah.
this is also known as the entertainment zone. There's a map of it in the packet, which is ostensibly Magnolia to Meadow, Orange to Canal, I believe, with a little extension down to cover John Sokol's place there with the name of it escapes me. That's the district. This would allow open containers in that district. The only other modification that's in the plan since first reading is that this now there is no sunset. So approving this means that that is the entertainment district, open container in that box for perpetuity or until the ordinance is modified.
Yeah, when we approved this at first, we had a sunset on it, so we had to look at it every year. The commission, basically, at the last meeting, was overall in favor of getting rid of that provision, so I will gladly go along with the commission's.
It can be terminated by the city commission at any time.
Yes.
Right. So, do we have any public comment on this?
Excuse me.
Any other commission comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunnell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. We're going to move on to some reading of first ordinances, but before we do that, we're going to ask Grant to swear in anyone who's going to offer testimony.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If anybody here tonight is present wishing to speak on item 6C3 or 6C5, that would be the Lake Brighthurst rezoning or the Blue Ridge Storage rezoning. If you would, please stand and raise your right hand so you can be sworn in. All right. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Thank you all. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So, would someone please introduce 6C, 1, 2, and 3?
I'll introduce 6C 1, 2, and 3 be read by title only.
Excuse me. 6C1, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 208.5 plus minus acres, being generally located east of County Road 33 and south of Lake Bright Street, and west of County Road 33 and south of Desert Lane, lying in Section 3, Township 21 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, provided that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the city of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3, and providing an effective date. 6C2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 208.5 plus minus acres from Lake County Rural to City of Leesburg Estate Residential for property generally located east of County Road 33 and south of Lake Bright Street, west of County Road 33 and south of Desert Lane, lying in Section 3, Township 21 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6C3, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning of approximately 208.5 plus minus acres from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development for property generally located east of County Road 33 and south of Lake Bright Street, west of County Road 33 and south of Desert Lane, as legally described in Section 3, Township 21 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Andy. Dan, would you come up and give us a...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. This evening, this is an annexation, large-scale comp plan, and rezoning on 208 plus or minus acres on South County Road 33. This is for the purpose of allowing future development of new neighborhoods, which would consist of 518 single-family lots, detached single-family lots on 208.5 acres. Properties generally located on the east and west sides of County Road 33 and north of Bridges Road on the far south side of Leesburg. The large-scale comp plan request is to change the future land use designation from Lake County Rural to City of Leesburg Estate. And the rezoning is a request to amend the current zoning from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD Plan Unit Development. Under the PUD requirements, the proposal will consist of, again, 518 detached single-family lots for a density of 2.48 gross units per acre. There are no other uses permitted in this proposal. Lot sizes would be 50 and 60-foot widths with 6,000 and 7,200 square feet of lot sizes respectively. The house sizes are 1,600 and 1,700 square feet under roof for each respective lot size. There would be a minimum 2-car garage, 2-floor maximum height. We do have design and architectural standards called out in the PUD. There is 35% open space that is required, as well as 2 trees in each yard and dark sky lighting, which we use in all these PUDs. There's a prohibition on the use of St. Augustine grass. Of course, Bahia and Bermuda are permitted. There's a 25-foot landscape buffer required along the entirety of the property boundaries, and a fence required along County Road 33 frontage. That can be either a split rail or an opaque fence. And there is fencing required in the remaining areas of the development as well. Site access is shown on the site plan along County Road 33 that would have the applicable XL and DCL lanes as required by Lake County. Those access points do have to be boulevard roadways, which have a landscape median of at least 8 feet in width and enough lane area to allow emergency vehicles to maneuver. There is 103,000 square feet of recreational requirements, which is about 2.4 acres. That's split on each side of 33 because these are essentially 2 separate neighborhoods. And there's a requirement for establishment of trails around the larger retention ponds, which is also seen on the site plan. Finally, there is a phasing or expiration clause which allows substantial commencement within 4 years or an automatic reversion to the RE1 zoning district, which is 1 acre per unit, I should say. Of course, all this development, if it is approved and eventually moves forward, will have to be on City of Leesburg water and wastewater, so there's no wells or septics included here. At the Planning Commission meeting, you will note in your agenda memo, staff recommended approval. However, the Planning Commission recommended disapproval by a vote of 6-1. Their reasons for that recommendation for disapproval had to do with traffic, housing density, total number of housing units, a need for what they felt like is a need for a solid wall separating some of the nearby animal and farming operations. Finally, Mr. Ben Snyder of Hanover Homes and Mr. Andrew McCown of GAI Engineering are here to answer any further questions, and our second reading is proposed for November 12th.
We have to send this, right?
Yes, sir. This is a large scale, so it does have to go to
So we're not
the
exactly
state.
sure when that'll be.
Correct.
Dan, I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
How many units is this?
518 is the request.
582. And you say the P&Z board disapproved?
That is correct.
And
If you'll note in the agenda memo, the reasons were in there, but yes, sir.
under the current zoning they have in the county, what would be the density on that?
Generally, it's under agriculture
1 to 5?
in the county, it's something like 1 to 5,
And
yes.
how many acres we're talking about?
208.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
One question I had, Dan, when viewing the site itself,
Yes, sir.
there is a Lake, what is it, Lake Thomas Road. You know, it's, if you can see it, it's right at the south end of the property.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is, according to the P&Z minutes, it's not a county road. It's, what is it? Because when you look at the map, it looks like a pretty, like somebody takes a grader to it anyway or something.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember if it's a county road or a private road. We can do the research and find out. I do not remember. Someone who lives on it may know for sure. I honestly don't remember, Mr. Mayor.
Because you know, in looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
what is the access to the property to the west if it's not that road? Is there?
On the site plan, there were access points here on the north and here, and then I want to say another one down in this area. It may actually be Lake Thomas Road, because if they purchased the entire property, they would be able to make that road into an entrance point.
Right. But is there an easement for the guy behind it, is what I'm asking.
If there is not, we will ensure that there is, because you cannot take away someone's access. So that's certainly would be on our mind. We're not going to allow a situation, it would be illegal, but we won't allow a situation
Yeah,
where someone
I just didn't
loses
see
their
any
access.
other access except that.
I don't
And when
either.
you look at the development picture of the PUD,
Yes, sir.
it does not account for that road at all.
We can fix
It,
that. If it's necessary, we can fix that easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would probably be an existing easement governing that we could take a look at and see what it
something, yeah.
says. But certainly, make sure that the folks off to the west have an ability to get to a public road. I think
233.
obviously is important. Yeah.
So does anyone have any other questions for Dan on this item?
I assume Ben can probably
Ben,
answer,
yeah, if
he
we
can
could
probably
get
answer
the
your question.
petitioner up also now.
Ben Snyder, Hanover Land Company, 605 Commonwealth Avenue. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, I was just going off
Yeah,
their
Dan,
comment.
so you know where I'm talking about?
Yes, sir, Lake Thomas
So what's the
Road.
deal on that?
The deal on that is Mr. Hewitt built it personally as a road to get back to his C&D landfill. We've met with him. Our plan is to have that part of the community wait to develop until he's finished filling up his C&D landfill and then reorient his access. But we will absolutely continue to provide access in perpetuity to through our neighborhood whenever that south side does develop, so that he can access, monitor, whatever that property back there.
So it is a landfill.
It's AC&D,
Yeah.
the construction debris, trees, blocks, stuff like that.
Right.
Yes, sir. But that's the situation. I met with Mr. Hewitt. We're being good neighbors, communicating, and have a plan for it.
Anyone have any other questions for Ben? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Public comment on this. Do we have any public comment, please?
Some pictures to pass out over here. Thank you. Yes, sir. Put those in the area. Hi, my name is William B. Robertson. I live at 23404 County Road 33. I don't have a pointer to be able to show you where you have. Oh, thank you very much. I just press the little button on the side. Okay. Our property is right here. This whole area, this area right here, and we have a deeded access. Our driveway goes right here out to 33. This property line that runs along the entire south of Phase 3, this is Phase 3 of the proposed property right here. It is 2,161 feet from here, back here. Our driveway comes in, and our property line, like I said, runs from 33 back to the USDA citrus testing lab back in behind here. We are not real happy about this going here like it is right now. I'm a retired City of Orlando firefighter paramedic and have been around fires my entire career. And with the density they're looking to, that they're proposing to build here, they're as close to zero lot line as you can get without being actually having no lot line or no space on one side like zero lot line is. And they're frame-built construction, vinyl siding. One house catches on fire, City of Leesburg is going to be in a conflagration is what it's going to end up being in that respect. So that concerns me for the City of Leesburg and all the people who live there with the density they're talking about, with 518 on that small of an area there. But I'd like to tell you that we have 33 acres where we are there. We've lived there for 36 years. It was a dead orange grove many years ago when we first bought it. I spent 8 days out there on a front-end loader tearing around orange trees, and of course we built our home and everything out there in that respect, and have lived there since then. But as I say, we want responsible development. We're in favor of development in that respect. It wouldn't hurt a thing. Neighbors in the area are concerned about it also, because it's going to change things for us greatly. If you look at the first page here and what I passed out to you, that's our entranceway going into our property. Over on the left side of our gate going in is the property in question that you can see there. And our house the driveway goes up about 900 feet, and our house is up on the hill. On page number 2, that's a picture along that driveway, and you can look along on the right side of the fence, that's that border fence that runs directly back 2,161 feet. That's the property in question where they're looking at building all these places. Of course, we drive in and out, and with a 25-foot buffer, will probably be the way that they're talking about having it right now, with just a split rail or maybe a poly fence or something like that. We'll be looking in to ladies washing their dishes in the backs of all these houses along our driveway and that sort of thing in that respect. And we feel like it's going to greatly diminish the value of our property as we're raised cattle. We have cattle out there and that sort of thing. And it's going to affect us as far as possibly people coming over, jumping over fences and things like that, and or their animals getting over. We have problems with dogs every now and then getting over after our cattle and that sort of thing, and not real happy with that. Plus, a cattle operation is a dangerous operation. People coming over there or kids coming over there or something along those lines. There's a 7,000-volt electric fence going all around our property, all around the fence lines and that sort of thing. Dangerous to a lot of people. Some people with heart problems can be deadly. So this is something that's come in all of a sudden that we feel like is an invasion in our area there, the way that it's being built, without any consideration of the way properties around there are being being lived on now. This page 1 is the entranceway going into our property. Page 2, as you can see there, is our driveway I just told you. Page 3 is our home. It's a 4,800 square foot home with 832 square foot garage. Is a little over 5,000, 5,600 square foot home up on the hill there. Over on County Road 33, if you drive down toward the city of Mascot, there's a neighborhood down there that is pretty much like what they're talking about building, with the exception of one thing. It has an actual concrete wall all the way around the perimeter of the property. It's called Roper Trails. On page 4, you can look at that and see. Right. And Roper Trails, if you turn to the next page, go inside, and you look at the density of these places there that are just, I mean, they're 10 feet apart, the houses are. And the next page is going to also show the density from a different angle in the same neighborhood there, how close these places are together. And it simply doesn't fit our area, and it's going to change things for us and for many of the other people who live around there in an unfavorable manner, we feel like. We spoke with an attorney, and she told us that we need to demand that they put if they're going to go ahead and do this, that y'all are going to pass this, even though planning and zoning turned it down 6-1, turned it down. If y'all decide to go ahead and pass this and let this happen here, we're going to have all these places right there, right next to us, that we're going to have to be looking at or be exposed to, along with the other people who are here tonight that would probably like to speak also. And what we need to have, if they're going to do this, is a solid concrete wall, much like the Villages has. I know that we talked about that in the planning and zoning meeting, and their spokesperson said that people consider it to be a concrete block wall like living in a prison. Well, the most popular homes in the Villages are veranda homes, which have concrete around them, concrete block walls around them, and they really like that because it's safe for their pets and all that sort of thing like that. So hard to imagine prison. But at any rate, like I said, we're concerned about liability as far as that goes too. We have a very dangerous bull that he's fine when he's inside of his electric fence, but if somebody decides to come over and decide to do any cow tipping or anything like that, they're going to be in big trouble. Okay, let's see here. I believe that's probably about all that I've got for you. Possibly my wife or my son might like to come up and say a few other things. But please, out of respect for planning and zoning, they surely didn't like it. They said that they regret a lot of the smaller properties that they have approved with these 50 and 60-foot lots. And for a place like this out here, if it were larger lots and maybe 1 acre lot per home or something along those lines, or maybe a little more like the ranches has up off of 565, they would be $1 million homes. But if that's the case, so be it, instead of these other homes that don't really fit the area at all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Tyler Robertson. I'm the son of parents right over here, my father who just spoke. I grew up at 23404 County Road 33. I grew up in Leesburg, went to Leesburg High School, lived in Lake County most of my life, but just recently moved to Sumter County, if you'll let me speak about this issue. Basically, my father laid out most of the arguments here as to what the issues are with this development. And primary concern here is that with the development going in, and there not being a mandate or requirement for the developer to have to put in a continuous wall from floor all the way up to at least 6 feet, as opposed to some split rail that what they're currently or what they're proposing that they would do, that this would go about the development in a way that develops it in not very responsible way. Because responsible development needs to be development that goes about it in a way that doesn't impinge upon or infringe upon the surrounding property owners and cause them to incur property devaluation or expose them to liability or risk. And of course, like my father said, somebody who can easily go right through a split rail fence, as opposed to a concrete barrier wall, they could come into contact with cattle, come into contact with other livestock, not just on my parents' property, but in the vicinity. And basically, that's part of owning property in a home, is that somebody who could, if they even make their way to your property and they get injured somehow, then the possibility of them suing your homeowner's insurance becomes something that is now opened up to get them compensated, essentially. So I just think that the Planning and Zoning Board has already disagreed with this the way it is, and we're not against development. We would just like to see development gone about in a way that ensures that there's responsibility, there's responsible development that happens. I'm a firefighter paramedic for Orlando Fire Department. Like my father, I was a firefighter, or he was a firefighter, and I used to work for the Villages Fire Department, and so I know what responsible development looks like, working in the villages, and I worked down in Lake Nona, Tavistock's development down there, building Lake Nona. So I've seen these two different developers go about development in responsible ways, and both of those areas have continuous walls from floor all the way up, 5-6 feet tall walls. And something that the developer said at the Planning and Zoning meeting was that, well, we wouldn't want to do something like that because doing that, putting up a wall like that, makes people feel like they're in prison. Like my father said, in the villages, the most popular home being sold, people look for, is one that has that. So it's kind of a little bit disingenuous. Something else here that I see as a red flag is that builder representative was at the Planning and Zoning meeting, and when asked about, basically how much the homes, like a range of what these homes that are going in are going to go for, they're expected. And the representative from the builder said that basically they didn't know. Now, obviously, anyone who's dealing with a development of this size, building 518 homes on a parcel this big, is going to go about it, and first thing they're going to do is find out if it's going to be profitable. They're going to find out if the investment and development is going to be feasible to invest this much money, how much money they're going to get out of the whole project. So the fact that they're not being forthright or forthcoming with, oh, well, here's our expected range of what the homes are going to go for. And so basically, that to me shows that there may be some lack of forthrightness, essentially, to try to get it passed. And so these are concerns, and essentially, that's all I have to say. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You want to come back up, or I have a question for Ben whenever you get a chance. Well, go ahead and have it. Go ahead.
My name's Gerald Robinson. I live at 3520 Desert Lane. If you look on the map there where it says Desert Lane, the end is at the northwest corner of my property. I own that corner piece bordering actually two sides of this development. Like the other gentleman said, we're not opposed to development. Like I told my wife, development's going to come. What we're opposed to is the density of the development. They're putting, come out to 4.25 homes per acre. I believe what was revealed in the planning and zoning meeting. That's too dense. If you look at all of the properties surrounding that, you see a lot of open place, no trees, that kind of stuff. I've been in a field that deals with construction for 40 years, and as that property on the west side of 33 gets developed, all those big oak trees will probably be bulldozed down, very much like the Lake Denham Estates. It was a nice treed property. You can go in there now, and it's the little planted ones to get it approved for a certificate of occupancy. I've lived out there for 33 years now, and when they do their environmental study, they're going to dig up a couple gopher turtles. Yep, we relocated, we're done. Well, there's a lot more animals out there than is realized. I've seen bobcats, indigo snakes, other wildlife. Well, as soon as that starts getting developed, you know, they're going to be pushed somewhere else. As was said earlier, it's, you know, a lot of times it's not about the dollar, it's about the community. Well, we're a community out there also, and we should have some input on what our community's going to look like. With that many homes going in that area and that concentration of people, figure there's 2 people in each home at a minimum. There may be some singles, but anyway, you're plopping in 1,000 people in that area right behind our houses. You can pretty much see the statistics is going to show that crime's going to go up, noise is going to go up, traffic is going to go way up. I had to change my work hours when I was working in order to get to work on time. I sat at my driveway on Desert Lane and counted 18 rock trucks before I could get out on 33. And then, of course, the economic boom dropped off and it slowed down, but now it's because of the villages and construction down on South 33, traffic is horrible again. I ride a motorcycle, but not as much as I'd like to because of the traffic growing in that area. With the development is going to come a lot of things that's going to affect us. And there's a bus stop right at Desert Lane that's going to be on top of a blind hill with 3 entrances. And, you know, that's part of our community too. You know, we don't want to have school buses hit by cars because people's not paying attention, that kind of stuff. And I think that the density that they're suggesting is going to have a negative effect on all of the houses around there.
Thank you, sir. Come on up, sir.
Have you got a pointer?
It still should be up there.
Okay.
Anybody have a pointer?
I see it.
Oh, there.
I'm James Rebels. I live on 3430 Desert Lane, and let me see, right there. And this fence line here joins my fence. I own this 5 acres, and I own this 5 acres. I got about a little over 10-something acres in there, okay? Right here, when this gentleman was talking about Desert Lane right here, about 600-700 feet back this way, this is 33, okay? It's a blind hill, and like he said, traffic comes over that hill 55, 60, and 70 miles an hour. There was a school bus last week I noticed that had pulled over on the grass right there and was talking to a lady that her little grandchild, I would assume, and he was pointing back down here at this road here. And I assumed he was trying to tell her she needs to take her child down there, what I'm thinking. I might be wrong. I'm only speculating, okay? Now, y'all was talking about these roads earlier here, who maintains these roads, okay? Well, Desert Lane right here, this road here is maintained by the people who lives on it. It's ingress and egress, okay? Most of these roads back in here are royal roads, just royal back in there. I might be saying it wrong, okay? And so what it is here, my family's got a little history here. The USDA over here, ever since I was a kid, I was told my family owned it. That's the U.S. Agriculture Research on Bridges Road. So my family has a history. My grandfather was born in 1913. So we've been there, what, 111 years from there back to Okahonka in this area in here, back towards Holly a little bit, okay? Okay. Right here in 33, my grandfather told me a story when he was a little boy. Right here is a low in the road, okay? He told me that when he was a little boy, they went to school in Okahonka down there, and there's a historical school in Okahonka. There's actually another one, okay? And he said that, yeah, he said the school bus would stop and pick up the kids, but the big kids couldn't ride on the school bus because the mule and wagon couldn't tote the load on, and small kids rode on. So right here in the middle of 33 right here, he has stood somewhere along in here, because there's a marsh on this side, and the old creek runs back on the backside in here, okay? He said he stood in the middle of the road right there in the old wagon ruts and catching fish, okay? Right here where Desert Lane is, this area has got a history for sinkholes, okay? Right here is a sinkhole, right where I'm pointing. And it's a big sinkhole, big enough to put a house in, a swaller. It's big. Down here on the edge of the lake down here back in the 90s, I seen another one fall in right there, probably about as big as a hood of a truck. And I couldn't see the bottom of it because, like I said, my family's been here a long time, and I know this area. This area in here, from an aerial view, where they talk about it is right here, it's like a micro environment. This environment right here, since I lived here, there's countless gopher tortoises. I've seen gopher tortoises as big as a quarter, and their shells has got a yellowish tint on it, okay? So I live here, so I know they're all in here. I've seen flying squirrels, fox squirrels, and all these are federally protected, most of them. I've seen 2 species of bobcats, wild turkeys, and wild hogs in my back fence line, right there. What it is over here, since this ain't developed, I've assumed it's some kind of breeding ground. From an aerial view, all this land around it is sparse. If you notice, this is heavily wooded. Used to be an old orange grove at one time, a grapefruit block, okay? Right here, this road to the landfills where y'all were talking, this is asphalt. It's a narrow asphalt road. Hewitt landfill back in here, and this is a construction landfill, class 3, I would say, okay? I was told here by a guy, because I'm into roofing, construction, that Hewitt's gonna reopen that landfill, okay? Now, since you got 200 plus acres here with 518 homes, you're talking better than 1,000 plus people condensed on 200 acres at 10 feet apart, I'd say. I don't know the right numbers, okay? Now, these trucks right here are going to be traveling this road right through the bottom heart of this thing, and there's going to be a lot of children in here, okay? What will happen here is that when they open this landfill back up and they run through here, there's going to be children playing. What's going to happen, some of these children could get out that little road and they're going to be killed. Now, we're in this meeting, I'm talking about it. So what will probably happen, they go, well, about the meeting. And I would say, if I'm ever asked, I said, listen, I stood up on this podium and I expressed that point, okay, for the sake of the kids. Now, back to the houses, back to the sinkhole right here. Since the ground is unstable, no one knows when or how a sinkhole will ever fall in. You just don't know. It happened in the villages in one section now, okay? You put houses that close together, with that magnitude of weight on the earth, when it already shows history of sinkhole, you're asking for a problem. You're asking for people to be swallowed up like that man did, sucked through the floor of that house, that concrete floor. It's all over news. And the relative was trying to save him, hearing him screaming. They could never get him out, and they fenced it in and over in Orlando somewhere, I'd say. Okay? This is a deadly area. Deadly. Okay? Because it's showing signs of it now.
Sir,
I'm not against
it's
building.
been well over 3 minutes, and out of respect for everyone's time, if we could close and finish up.
Okay, then.
Thank you.
I mean, I could tell you more. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick because my husband and son has already spoken. I am Karen Robertson, and my address is 23404 County Road 33, Groveland, Florida. The only three things I want to say is our attorney advised us that it's unfair to have this liability pushed onto us, because we went to see a real estate attorney to get advice, you know, because this is where our wealth is. This is all that we own. That's our wealth. One thing I'm concerned about is we have a 66-foot driveway coming in, and we have to look at the backs of all these houses that are 50, and on our side it's only 50 feet. They have some that are 60, that's on the other side. 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, as we're driving in and driving out. The other thing is, the builder representative at the planning and zoning meeting, he mentioned he didn't know what price they're gonna be. Well, I talked to Dan Miller prior to that. He said the low 300s. So I'm assuming 325. So you take 325,000 times 518 homes is $168,350,000. I think they can afford a wall.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Come back. Question with regards to the wall. Is there any thought process of building a wall?
Our neighborhoods generally don't have walls around them. We've never been requested to have a wall. The landscape buffer is a requirement of the city. It's been well received within the city and our developments and others, so we don't see any need to incorporate a wall at this time.
Okay. Any other questions?
I mean, I guess I'm speaking to the residents who spoke and Ben. I'm not crazy about walls. If I was there, I would want a landscape buffer. I don't know if there's flex. I don't know what these folks think. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but is there a way to make them happy with some slightly wider buffer or heavy landscaping? I mean,
It's already heavy landscaping. I mean, it's.
okay, I'm trying to block their view entirely with landscaping. That's my view. Is there a way to block it with landscaping versus a wall and make them happy? It's just an idea. I'm not asking you to commit tonight. I mean, we have another reading on it. I don't know if you could talk with them and see if you can find some compromise.
Look at it.
Any other questions?
I have just a few things. I just want to recap. Not for you, Ben. I want to recap. Based on the present zoning in the county, this piece of property would only be allowed to have 43 units. They're asking for 518. I mean, talking about a tremendous amount of difference between what the county would allow and what they're asking us. 43 to 518. Again, going back onto a two-lane road, being funneled down to probably the worst intersection in Leesburg at 33, 48, and 470. And we're adding, we would be adding another 518 units to that intersection. Craziness. To make matters worse, it butts up to a landfill. And our planning and zoning said they voted against it 6-1. Now, I know we're not voting tonight, but I would like for everybody to take these facts in consideration when this does come back up. 43 to 518, landfills, two-lane roads, terrible intersections, P and Z, their recommendation. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. So,
A motion to transmit this to the state for review.
Second.
we need a roll call on that. Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson? Yes. Commissioner Connell?
To transmit.
No.
You don't want to transmit it to the.
No, I don't want to go, I want to stop it right down.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Mayor Murray?
Yes. All right. Would someone please introduce item 6C, 4, 5, and 6?
I'll introduce 6C, 4, 5, and 6 to be read by title only.
6C4, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 10.02 plus minus acres, being generally located west of U.S. Highway 27 and north of El Presidente Boulevard, lying in Section 25, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, provided that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, provided that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3 and providing an effective date. 6C5. An ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 10.02 plus minus acres from Lake County urban low density to City Leesburg general commercial for property generally located west of U.S. Highway 27 and north of El Presidente Boulevard, lying in Section 25, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6C6, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 10.02 plus minus acres from Lake County PUD Planned Unit Development to Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow a self-service storage facility for property generally located west of U.S. Highway 27 and north of El Presidente Boulevard, lying in Section 25, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Dan, would you please come up and give us a synopsis?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a proposal for an annexation comp plan and rezoning for a much smaller project, 10.02 acres, generally located on the west side of US 27, south of town, just north of El Presidente Boulevard, which is near the Spanish Village neighborhood. If you're going south on 27, it's on the right. There's El Presidente and then the plantation subdivision down there as well in that general direction. This request would allow for mini warehouse and storage uses. The small-scale comp plan request is to change a future land use designation from county urban low to City of Leesburg general commercial, and on the rezoning to change that zoning from county PUD to city SPUD, which is small plan unit development. Under the requirements of the PUD, it's indoor self-storage and outdoor self-storage, and then it allows one apartment for a manager security type development. This, in any time, well, this is going to be under the PUD requirements. Where it's not governed by the PUD, we'd simply use the C3 highway commercial standards for the property. We did require dark sky lighting. There are large setbacks, 50 on the front and rear, 20 on the sides. We do have plenty of open space requirements, 35%, landscape buffer, and a fence, a non-opaque fence is required, which there's fencing up on the property. What we're trying to say is the existing fencing is fine. 3-floor maximum height, there are architectural standards required. Site access would be along US 27, and Lake County did not indicate any specific road improvements would be necessary. Again, it would be on city water and wastewater. It's 10 acres, and Attorney J.B. Bickelmeyer is here to represent the project if you have any further questions.
One question I did have, Dan.
Yes, sir.
How much concrete parking lot, of the 10 acres, how much of it is going to be,
The development
is
itself
it 2.5 of it, or,
is right in this southeastern area. A large portion of this property on the west is wetlands. So it creates a natural buffer going back here and some buffering to the south as well. The property line ends right down here. So really, the only true developable area is right along the US 27 roadway. As to specific acreage of the 10, it's only a couple. It's not that much. I don't know the exact numbers. I can look that up and
Because
do a
it's wet.
calculation.
The rest of it is,
Sir?
because it is wet?
Yes, sir.
The rest
This,
of
this entire tree, just almost the entire treed area is wetlands.
Right. So we'll hear from the petitioner.
J.B. Brickemeyer, 17032 Johns Lake Drive, Winter Garden. We don't have a lot to add unless the commission's got questions. The building is about an acre, and we've got about 25 feet around for parking and access. So you're talking about 1.4 acres. I don't know the number off the top of my head, and we certainly get that back to you if you want it. But as Dan said, the majority of it is wetlands. We've only got a portion of the upland property, and that's offset by the power line easements that we can't use on the northern side. We expect the building costs, we haven't had estimates yet, we expect the building cost to be somewhere between $40 and $70 a square foot, which puts you somewhere in the $5 to $9 million range. Anticipated employee count is somewhere between 3 and 5, depending on maintenance and those kind of things, requirements as we move forward. With that, I'd answer any questions you might have.
My only concern, looking at it, was how much wetland. Is there any mitigation that you're going to have to do?
We're not impacting the wetlands at all.
Okay.
And we've got the only thing we've got that's even potentially close to that is the drainage ponds, and they aren't even in the wetlands. We're back from the wetlands barrier because we have a wetland setback, 50 feet.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Any public comment on this? All right, so we have a second reading.
October 28th.
That'll be October 28th. All right, so let's move on to 6C7.
I'll introduce 6C7 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, creating Section 2-8 of the city's Code of Ordinances entitled Control of Access to City-Owned, Controlled, and Leased Property, establishing a process to designate facilities as public forums, limited public forums or non-public forums, establishing trespass notice for public property, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
We have a second reading on this.
1014.
It'll be 1014. Are there any questions anyone wants to bring up with us? Any comments?
I think there was some public comments that said they wanted to speak when they talked to me, so I don't know if any public people want to speak
Sure. I
regarding
didn't know if
this.
that was going to be on the item 8 or item 7.
We can ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any public comment on this item?
I guess I get to be the first of many, hopefully. Dina Simpson, Renew Day Spa, 214 West Main Street. I want to thank you for allowing us to be able to speak in regards to this. First of all, I get the fact that there's a timer up there, and you know that this is not the first time that I've had to speak in regards to things going on in the city. I think the timer should be set for everybody, and myself included, even this time. We've owned the business for 7 years, and since the day that we've opened the business, we've had problems with homeless on our front porch. Originally, when it was Jay Scott's building, there was a big barrier in the front there, and it was strongly suggested for us to turn around and take that down. I regret the fact that I've taken that down now, to be honest with you, because it helped protect the front of that building and protect property. I can tell you a story, will not go very long. However, a couple years ago, I pulled up to my business at about 7:30 in the morning and found a homeless man in the back who was half clothed. And at that time, I did not feel safe. And I called the police, and I went into my business and locked myself into my business. I asked the police to not tell the homeless person as to who it was who called the police on them. 2 police officers showed up, one to the front of my business, one to the back, to deal with him, and they proceeded to radio back and forth with one another, which I'm sure that they knew that they had to do. Only to find out that the homeless man had a handwritten note giving him permission to be there. when there had been a no trespass on the buildings on that entire block for well over 3 or 4 years. He was warned and needed to get clothes on, and I was concerned with staff members as well as myself, as well as Beacon students who were walking up the street going to school, as to what was this man's intentions as to why he was half clothed. He was only clothed from the waist up. I did not feel safe. At that time, I went for my concealed weapons, and I've continued to keep my concealed weapons and go target shoot and all that for my own safety. Thank goodness, knock on wood, I have not had to use that, nor do I want to turn around and use that. Approximately 6 months later after that incident, I had a problem getting into my back door of my business. Didn't quite understand as to why I was having a problem because the property owner had not done anything to my lock, only to find out after hiring a locksmith that my back door was super glued. My lock was super glued. And after putting up cameras at my cost and a light at my cost, which within 24 and 48 hours, both nights, those lights and cameras were both ripped down. That same gentleman was found, at the time, Travis Whitley had found him in the town square with my camera and had tried to ditch his backpack along with drugs, la 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 la. He was arrested and went to court. I was notified less than 24 hours before his court date and was informed that I did not have to, nor did they want me to go to his court date. He was released, and he is now continually to walk the streets, and I've continually have had problems at my business. I've had an order of protection against this man for my business as well as my family. My daughter, when she worked at the city pool, could not walk to the pool nor ride her bike to the pool because he knew who she was linked to, and the business she was linked to, and would constantly harass, just say rude comments, whatever he could possibly turn around and do. This is not something that is unheard of downtown. My husband will get up and speak as well, but this man is still downtown. I still continue to carry. I don't know if he's the one who's still continually vandalizing my property, but we have had multiple people multiple times vandalize our property. They've defecated on my front porch. I've had homeless men during the day, during business, pass out on my front porch. This should not be a problem that a business owner has to have. It's hard enough to make money and to get that staff to come in and want to turn around and make money for you and have those clients, those same clients that come to the villages. Guess what? They go to my village's property now because they don't want to turn around and they don't want to deal with that nonsense. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening, Tim Simpson, Renewed Day Spa. Oops, I knocked that out. Sorry about that. Just to piggyback on what my wife said, I mean, clearly, we have a problem. We continually talk to our staff about we're in a problem-solving business, and I applaud you guys for looking at this and trying to find an answer. And I will admit, I'm sure I don't know all the details legally at the local level up to the state level. However, the fact is we have a problem. Former Chief Hicks, Chief Iozzi, they've been very instrumental in helping us navigate some of these muddy waters, but it continues to be a problem. On March 25th, 17, we opened up, and it's been a pleasant experience being here. However, in those 7.5 years, as my wife said, I've had a woman urinate on my front porch, I've had a chair stolen, I've had 3 cameras stolen, to the point now that I have to look for a more secure solution that is going to cost me upwards of $1,500. And I'm sure the city is not going to give me money to do this. I mean, it's very frustrating that I can't go buy an $80 camera that's a blink camera, look at on my phone, that I've had 3 of them stolen from my front porch. It continues to be a problem. I think we really need to look at it. Some of these people continue to vandalize the street. I get it. Homelessness is a problem. However, I will say my daughter formerly lived in Delray Beach. We go on Atlantic Avenue, and I don't know if it's the fact you buy a $50 hamburger. There is not a major homeless issue on Atlantic Avenue, which is their main street down there. They find a way to get it done, and I think we need to continue to work and try and find a solution to this problem. I think some of these people need to be expelled from the city. I get Livestream is here. I get a lot of the people being Baker acted are dumped here. But I will say, one of our famous ladies that walks up and down the street speaks at very high volumes. Most people know who I'm speaking about. She continues to live here. She's been shipped out. She's been shipped back. You know, I mean, heck, I feel like I might as well live at the Mexican border at this point. I mean, you know, it's not much different. So I would love to hear from the city what we can do about this problem and what the cops can do. I mean, Chief Hicks, you know, I mean, personally answered a lot of my calls when we had an issue. I don't know why we can't have a policeman patrol the streets on a timely manner. If they're doing it in other neighborhoods, why are you neglecting downtown and having a police officer come downtown and periodically patrol the streets? To the point that I would have to look at my camera, it would buzz, I would have to call the city for my non-trespassing order and say, can you please go look at the person on my front step who most likely was gone by the time they got there. Just a waste of time on our part, the police officer's part, and I don't know why we can't have someone that just continually patrols the area up and down. You know, we hear all these developers wanting to do great things for the city. If we don't have businesses that can't survive and thrive, you know, it doesn't matter what they want to do because they're not going to come down. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Penny Costanzo. I live at 2225 Angelfish Loop in Leesburg. I'm new to the area. You're trying to get new businesses and people to come in and you're worried about parking. People don't want to come here if they're being approached by homeless people all over town. You want to bring people in here while there's people sitting in the parks taking up time. It smells like urine in the parking lots we do have. I'm from the Philadelphia area. And I see exactly what's going to happen from where I lived before. You're not addressing the people. They may have mental health issues. Let's get them help and get them where they need to be rather than sleeping in our streets. I don't want to go to Blue Island or go to the day spa and walk by it and smell urine. That's not an appealing sight. How about you put the money towards power washing where the homeless people are? Because you're trying to get rid of them, but the smell and everything still lingers there. So get them help rather than, no offense, worrying about the parking. And getting back to the area that's for sale, why wouldn't you offer that to Beacon College for their students as a housing development? That is my opinion. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Felicia Stewart with Hope to Restoration. So I'm here definitely to talk about the homeless situation. I know there is a time actually from the Groveland area, so the South Lake area, and actually a part of the P&Z just came up after 4 years. So I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I do want to say I totally understand what all of these business owners are saying. I personally, you're looking at someone who is a former homeless individual. 20-some years ago, I moved to Orlando, Florida, being homeless, leaving a domestic violent relationship. I was shot, stabbed, and left for dead in North Carolina. I moved down to Orlando, Florida, and I was homeless. I was a working parent, and I had a car, but I was stereotyped. So every time I walked into a facility or every time I went somewhere, it was like, oh, that homeless lady, she must be on drugs or she must be an alcoholic. And so sometimes homelessness do get a bad name. I wrote a book called Homelessness Through the Eyes. I call it A Homeless Genius, looking at homeless in a different way. That homeless genius was my father, who died on the streets of Philadelphia as a absolute genius and as a running for mayor in 2 different states. I'm coming to you to find out what can we do as a city, as the city of Leesburg. My business is at 2501 West Main Street, Suite 106. It's called Hope to Restoration, giving people the hope to be restored and trying to restore them acclimated back into society and giving them the right. Everybody does not want to be homeless. There are some people out here that don't want to be on drugs. There are some people out here that are not on drugs. I wasn't. But when you walk into a facility and you say, I'm homeless with my 4 children, 26 years ago, which all of my children are grown and gone and successful, and thank God I am successful as well. When you walk into a facility and you say homelessness, there's a stereotype. So I am coming to you asking. I went to I am a dog lover, an animal lover, all of that. But a couple of years ago, when my organization was in Tavares, we spent, from what I was told, $7.4 million on an animal shelter. but yet we do not have any shelter, no transitional facilities, anything to transition these people into to actually help them to restore and get back up on their feet. What are we doing to try to help them instead of criticizing, instead of saying they're urinating and throwing up, we're putting them in live stream, they're getting out, they're doing this. What are we doing to take the steps to try to help them get back up on their feet? Those who want help. I have a statistic and I have a plan that I have been working on. And right now, my statistics of success is 32%. You can look on my page, you go on my website, all of that, Hope to Restoration. And it shows that they are actually becoming successful. I had a gentleman walk in my office, didn't even know how to tie a tie. He now is a homeowner, he now has a car, he now has 2 jobs. So what are we doing? Are we just standing back saying, get away from my property, not in my backyard, not on my front porch? Or are we actually getting together with organizations, trying to find some type of success rate or trying to find some type of building to put them into, and organizations like myself, who I don't have the funding to do it, we can't get the grant funding to do it or anything like that, but would love to have a facility to help walk these people to the point of restoration. Again, Felicia Stewart, Hope to Restoration. If you guys would like to talk to me, I would love to talk to you about the problem.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
James Hopkins. I'll keep it short and sweet and fix this microphone, hopefully. What she's talking about is exactly, I think, and I've had actually a meeting with Chief Ayazi, Rob Hicks, and City Manager Al Miner just a week ago about this specific issue. And what she's talking about is exactly right. There are the ones and the people that are homeless that want to get help. And I think that through private entity and through some state-funded things, Livestream being one of them, the First Baptist Church has a large, the Salvation Army, there's a lot of opportunities for people that don't want to be homeless to get off the street. What I think a lot of the business owners are concerned with are the perpetual people that have been here for that the street in downtown Leesburg is their home. We deal with some of the same people that Dina and Tim were talking about. We've had a purse stolen from one of our servers. We've had our second week of being open. We had a homeless guy come in, sit down, and refuse to leave. I was actually at JAG calling the PA announcement, and I get a call from my wife that says, hey, I think you're going to have to come over here because I can't get this guy to leave our restaurant. By the time I get there, we had a line out the door, second week open, and he's spitting on people as he leaves. He's a known perpetual downtown person that has been trespassed from just about everywhere downtown. We have a trespass order that I think part of the solution is for us as business owners to come, when these things come up in these forums, continue to keep this at the forefront of the Commission's mind. There's a lot of legalities that go into this, and there's a lot of things. I know that's part of what you guys are going to get to the next here, is putting some order to what the state and what the governor has allowed you guys to do. And I appreciate and commend and would ask that you guys would approve that next ordinance. I know it's first reading or second reading, so I would appreciate that that would be taken into consideration and be passed as quickly as possible, so that come October 1, we can give the police as much of their ability that they can do within the law to enforce what they can in our downtown area. And thank you guys.
Thank you.
Elliott Ward, 712 West Main Street. Most of the time I come before you guys, or I come with some kind of solution, because that's how I was raised. My solution to this, once we read through this, I know there's a way to get there. We need officers downtown. So getting the funding to keep them downtown, move them along, it will fit and fix quite a bit, whether it's the parking, which I know everybody gets saying, but I hear it every day, and the homeless. I've worked with some of the ones that are on my end, and I just, look, I know the game, I've been there, move it along, someplace else. Not having someplace else to take them, I understand that. So it is a little bit of a conundrum, but my solution is to get us law enforcement downtown. Let's find the funding and get them downtown, because that's a simple, when they're there, we don't have the problems. Activity breeds activity, and having support with the police department is, I think, the solution. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any question? Roll call. Well, actually, this is the first reading. Yeah, so when are we having a second reading?
October 14th.
October 14th will be the second reading. Okay, so would someone please introduce 6C8?
I'll introduce 6C8 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending Chapter 15, Article 1, General Offenses, to create Section 15-7 entitled Public Camping or Sleeping, prohibiting unauthorized camping at any time within the city, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
So I guess I'll kick this off a little bit. The state of Florida has a new law, and I don't know if everybody's aware that goes into effect October the 1st. You can find it in the Florida statutes. It's Florida Statute 125.0231, and it regards public camping and basically addresses the homeless issue. I would ask Grant, so I don't mess it up, if you could give us just a quick synopsis of what that statute says that we must do.
Yes, sir. Microphone on here. Yes, sir. So basically what this law does is it prohibits a city or a county from allowing any person to regularly engage in public camping or public sleeping. And so that would cover private property, including sidewalks and parks and all of that. But basically, if somebody is regularly engaging in public camping or public sleeping, as the ordinance defines it, which is pretty vague as far as, if somebody's asleep on a park bench at 3 in the morning, then it would seem that they're sleeping in public. Whether they're regularly sleeping in public, is a little bit unclear. So there's some questions, I guess, as far as some of the mechanics, but the general theme is cities and counties cannot allow public camping or public sleeping to happen. The only way that they could allow that to happen would be if a county establishes a public campground site, essentially. If it's in a municipality, it would be a joint operation between the city. The city would have to approve it. But the county could set up one of these campsites. They would have to get it approved by DCF, so they would have to apply to Department of Children and Families with the state, get a certification from them that there were not enough beds in the county. And then they could set up one of these campsites somewhere in town. They would have to set up patrols and some facilities and structures in there, so it would be somewhat expensive to set that type of thing up. So the long and short is cities and counties will not be allowed to permit public camping or public sleeping to occur anymore. And if that does occur, then the city could be sued. So that's essentially the mechanism that's in place. So the state did not exactly outlaw public camping or public sleeping. They just sort of outlawed the cities and counties from allowing it to happen, and have subjected the cities and counties to civil lawsuit if it does happen. So what we have here is essentially an ordinance that mirrors what the state statute is in terms of prohibiting public camping and public sleeping. What we had just gone over in the prior ordinance was a public facilities and trespassing ordinance. So this would essentially set up a process for law enforcement to address the situation and ensure that the city is compliant with state law. And so this will give law enforcement some tools to use because currently there's not anything on the books in the city that addresses this issue. There is in the county, but not in the city. So this will set up sort of a prohibition on that type of activity in the city and give law enforcement some tools to ensure that that code is followed once it's in place. Yes?
Regularly.
Regularly. That's all we got.
Exact word.
That's all we got.
Who is not in the
if you, yeah, please don't speak from the, come to.
Yeah.
The rule says regularly. So that is defined as somewhere along, sometimes.
Yeah,
it's a very vague interpretation.
I think it's, there's some discretion there that's probably given to law enforcement to an extent to determine what would regularly be in their eyes. What would a judge say regularly is? We don't know the answers to what that means at this point. Yeah. It'll all be fleshed out down the road. If somebody is trespassed and arrested after 2 times of sleeping on a bench and they challenge it and a court decides that was regularly, then, that's what it is now. But we don't really know what that means without further definition or interpretation from the courts on what that duration means.
And what the ruling also says is that, first you've got to fill up your homeless beds that are available in your county. So take a guess at how many homeless beds we have in Lake County. 0. That's none. So we cannot ship them to a facility that accepts homeless. There's no beds available. So if a campground can be established, the campground number 1 cannot be contiguous with a piece of property that is used for residential purposes or that has been zoned for residential purposes. It also says that the piece of property that you're making into a camp cannot decrease the property value of anybody's property that it may be around. So functionally, in a city like ours, there is no property for us to establish that camp. There is nothing that meets that criteria. So it's for us and for just about everybody, it's kind of an impossibility. So, having the camp, and even if you set up the camp, then you've got to provide mental health services. You have to have clean restrooms. You have to make sure that people are safe. So you're going to have to, the list goes on and on that makes it very difficult for us to meet the needs that are out there with the way the law is written. But we've got to enforce the law. And the law says we cannot allow people to regularly camp in public property. And that's what we are trying to address.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
camping? So there are two groups of religious people who sit in the same seats in the same place every day, all day long. My question is that also considered camping?
No.
They sit in the same place in the park, and they sit on the park bench. So they're there all day long, taking up that space. So that's okay.
I'm not.
That's my question. Like when you say camp, you're not being specific
We're
in
talking
the
about
word
sleeping.
camp.
The actual law includes things like tents, cardboard
Okay, well, that
boxes
was my
that would
question,
be
like when
used
we said
for-
camping, because I don't always feel comfortable with the individuals being in that spot all the time.
I understand, but camping is, as defined in this
Okay,
statute.
well, that was my question.
It includes tents, sleeping apparels, sleeping bags, anything that would indicate to an officer that the person is intent on sleeping there that night.
That's exactly right. If you look at in the agenda package, in the ordinance that's in the package, it has a definition of public camping and sleeping in the ordinance that was pulled from the statute. So if you look at that, and it talks, just as the mayor was saying, talks about kind of evidence by sleeping bags or tents or materials that would sort of
Yeah, I just wanted the
indicate more of a
definition. Thank
permanent.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jimmy, you made me get up. Grant, I know we've had the legalese side of this, and not to put Captain Joe on the spot, but is there something that you can help us as business owners with, try and help this problem in the short, medium, and long term, because I don't know what to do at this point. I mean, beside calling these guys and saying, oh, I've got a no trespass order, and I've heard you read it, both of you guys, I get it. You know, I got a little legal background, but I mean, what can we do as business owners to work with you and your team so that we can try and get this problem solved?
Come on up, Joe.
Well, certainly any time that there's criminal activity, call us. And I think we've, been pretty responsive to those issues as they've occurred in the downtown area and elsewhere within the city. I would say this isn't a problem unique to downtown, but obviously with the businesses that are downtown, it gets recognized more prevalently. Certainly we'll respond to that. We can do trespass authorization letters, which you're already aware of. Again, I think it's being described, that there still isn't a lot that's going to change as a result of this statute that's coming down. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. There are abundant resources for people in bad shape, and we tend to get a disproportionate amount of people in this town as a result of that. We will continue to provide the same level of service that we are allowed to by law, constitutionally, to keep us from lawsuits with the ACLU and other entities that watch out for people that might be harshly treated by law enforcement and a community. So that's what we'll do.
Thank you, Joe. Any other public comment?
And Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure, is it safe to say that you're saying that in the city of Leesburg, or basically in Lake County, I guess, that this problem is not a solvable problem?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it's not solvable. What I'm saying is the way this law is written, if you read the law says that the county can establish a camp because we don't have the beds. The beds
Yes,
don't
sir.
exist, okay? So the county can establish a camp, or the county and a city together can establish a camp. That camp would have to look much like a state park. You would have to provide showers and, not exactly, but in
Enforcement too. It's got to be patrolled and all that.
You have to offer the mental health services, and there's some other type of services.
It has to be fenced.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot to it. It has to be regulated by the Department of Children and Families. Okay, so it has to meet all that criteria. It's right. Read it because I've read it many times, but I may be not exactly right on it. So in our case, the way the law is written is that we can be held responsible for not doing this.
Yes, sir.
And I don't. This is not a personal. It's our job to follow the law, and this is the law that starts October 1st. So we are establishing how the city of Leesburg is going to follow the law.
And by no means, I'm a business owner outside of the nonprofit, organization as well, but just trying to get a solution to the problem. And again, we have so many buildings that are being purchased for other things. Again, like I say, I don't want the Humane Society to come after me because I am a dog lover, animal lover. But however, I noticed so many abandoned hotels on 27 and 441, and things of that nature, in which, if again governed properly, and I'm going to try to go after them, of course.
Private industry can do that.
Okay.
We cannot put that camp by a residential community. We cannot put that camp in an area where a residential community is even planned.
Gotcha.
We are limited such that the property that is the city of Leesburg proper, there's not places that meet the criteria for us to even address having a camp.
Absolutely.
To do that.
Absolutely. And understandable.
And
I want to respect, of course, like I say, a business owner, you want to respect the business owners because there are some
Sure.
ridiculous, some people out there that are not so nice and doing crazy things and should be trespassed and should not be,
Correct.
making their business, come down. But however, there are some that are wanting help, that are sleeping in cars with their children
Now-
and sleeping, things like of that
Now,
nature. So.
If the car is properly registered, yeah. I'll let Grant go through that.
The car is an exception. If you are in a vehicle and it's properly registered and parked in an appropriate, proper spot, then you can still sleep in a
You
car.
can sleep in your car.
Okay.
This does not address that.
But again, getting something done about this is DCF and Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition and things.
That's right. DCF is the certifying
And I
agency.
went and met with them, with Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition and Kirby Smith and all of them, so I definitely want to take the proper chains because
Right.
I definitely believe that this problem can be solved. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Any other public comment?
Question, does Sumter County have any open beds or any homeless facilities?
Couldn't tell you. Don't know.
Okay,
Maybe.
so my next comment maybe is, I have two businesses in the villages, and when we have a problem with homeless in the villages, which we do because one of them, I'm right on the border, I'm considered Wildwood, to be honest with you. Sumter County Sheriff's Department comes out and they take care of it. I will tell you, it's been one person in the last 4 years. And that one person was probably about 2 months ago. So for those of us who frequent the villages, we don't see homeless downtown in Sumter Landing or Brownwood or anything, do we? Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm not sure what the law is in Sumter County regarding that, but I know what it is here, so. Any other comments? Okay, so this was the first reading. We'll have a second reading
October 14th.
October 14th on this. Please feel free to look at the Florida statutes 125.0231, and that explains it very well. Non-routine items we have done. Informational reports. Does anybody have any question on any of the reports? Not tonight. City attorney items.
No reports this evening. Thank you.
City manager items. Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Connell? Commissioner Eastman?
One thing, and I'll be quick. I want to thank, where's my notes? I want to thank the Leesburg Police Department, the Leesburg Blue Foundation, Sergeant Walsh for a successful second annual Leesburg Blue Foundation 5K presented by Sun Air Aviation. And thank you to Commissioner Peterson for coming out. It was a successful event. We had a lot of runners, and we're excited to announce what we're going to be doing next year. We have some tricks up our sleeves. So, and with that, nothing else.
Mayor Bree?
Nothing tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
We're gone. Thank you.